in my pajamas, but I'm still okay with that.
But you look good. I am recording something, but hold on one second. Yes. So I know people are heading into this inauguration weekend, just like you said, just feeling sick to to your stomach. How are you feeling about this?
Yeah, I feel sick too, but I don't want to miss the moment that's happening here and why it's so important. I don't remember the dates, but I know that it's historic in terms of how often a presidential inauguration, since we got the King holiday, that they fall together. And there
Right.
is this interesting kind of really sad moment because you have the inauguration happening, the celebration of King holiday, but you have more than half of the country who would not find this to be a happy moment. An inauguration would be something that most people, no matter what side of the party you're on, left or right, you still sort of come together in that moment. But you have more than half of the country who is feeling really, really bad, and it's happening on a holiday that we were there.
Yeah.
So you sent a really interesting article to me and it has Bernice King, and she talks about not to miss this moment. And part of it, she says,
This
um,
is Bernice King,
this is
right?
Bernice King,
Okay.
and she says activists cannot develop a strategic love-centered strategy for addressing language and legislation if they are not also strategic in listening and leadership. And she says, this
Yeah.
is not a time for ignorance. And I love that because she's speaking,
Yeah.
she is like, she is not mincing words here in terms of how important
Yeah.
this is. So I feel strongly that we have to have a really serious message about what's happening on January 20th and that we cannot look away and
Yeah.
we must
Not look away.
participate.
Agree. Not, no, it's not a time to look away. It's a time, like you said. I think, especially about when you talk about the ignorance of this is something that I feel like when you really look at what's going on, we talk about propaganda. We were just talking before about the information people are getting on the news from the California fires to the floods, that a lot of this ignorance is willful because these villains, these media people, what do you want to call it, are really getting into people's heads, and it's purposeful to make them more ignorant. And this is the challenge of our time, is how do we make sure people are getting information that's correct, or else you don't have a democracy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I've been really thinking about this a lot. And so, we talked about whether canvassing worked or not,
Right.
but I think that it still matters. You have to figure out every single way that you can bring attention to what's happening. And so the activities that Bernice King talks about, the Peace Walk and Parade,
Peace walk.
the National Park Service is going to host a volunteer event on the 18th. So there is cleanups happening. So we just have to figure out the way that we bring attention to this moment because it's not about us as much as it's
Yeah.
about what it feels like to do service and what it feels like to honor Dr. King and his work.
In this work. Yes, I think that's a great way for all of us to think about this coming weekend. And that it's sort of like a gift sitting there. Like you said, this is historic that they've happened on the same day.
Yeah, yeah, it is historic, and it's sort of a sadness. I think
It's that too.
I think I find it difficult to celebrate this president, and you can respect the office
Yes.
and not respect the person.
No.
And it's really hard because you think about um, the character of this person who right now we're all sitting in and talking to family and friends and anybody who is suffering from the fires that are happening in Los Angeles. And then you have the people who will be leading the country, instead of talking about what it means to help and support the state, they're
Yes.
talking about incompetence. And
Yes.
and what we have to know, and this is why Bernice King says this is not a time for ignorance, is that we have to take a look at that and say, what does that mean? How do you critically think through why someone would be saying those kinds of things in this moment?
In
And that
this
is to
moment.
bring attention to their own inequities and their own incompetence. And so we have to just find ways to stay strong and find
Yeah.
ways to ensure that when we're talking to everyday people, our friends and our family, that we help them think through why people say and do the things that they're doing, especially in the moment that we're in right now.
Especially in the moment they're in right now. So pick your day of service. I think in general, it would be amazing if the whole country aligned with what we're thinking of. The one way to respond is to go back to that core of service to one another. And with the passing of Jimmy Carter, it all feels like a message. I'm not sure, kind of a message to us what to get to. So yeah, I think that on the show this Friday, we have Lisa Gilbert from Public Citizen. We'll be talking about all these great topics. So I hope people will join us. All right.
I hope so too.